Do that. And good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. You got your coffee, got your tea. We're going to make this as engaging as possible. A lot of audience participation, so you should have with you pencil and paper. So I'm going to be asking you to basically join in every now and then. And again, you want to share your thoughts, more than happy just to have a conversation, essentially. So, first things first. This is what James calls ancient Twitter. Who knows what this is? Have a guess. Exactly, yeah. So, cuneiform tablet from 3000 BC. And if we go to the next slide, this one is even earlier. This is from France, cave painting from 17,000 BC. Basically, what I'm going to look at today with you is our love affair with ink and possibly how it's dying out. So what do you all remember doing when you were young? When you were young, what did you do? What did your parents give you? And what did they encourage you to do? Did they make you draw? Do they still have your paintings on display somewhere? I'm sure some of us are artistic here. I know others are in corporate communications and we've had all of the energy and creativity taken out of us, but others are going to be very artistic here. So essentially, you look at it, we've been writing, we've been using ink for thousands of years. And in a sense, over the past, say, 100 years, we've actually gone through a major evolution. If we look 200 years back, only 10 in 100 people can actually read and write with literate. 100 years back, that was 20. And now we're actually up to 80 in 100. But let me ask you a question, and I'm actually going to get you to start writing. Write down on your piece of paper, apart from now, when was the last time you actually wrote something down? Just write a number down. How many weeks? Was it this week?
Signing a check out.
That doesn't count if you're a business owner in Dubai. So when was the last time, just write down on your piece of paper a number. When was the last time you actually wrote something down? This is going to be fascinating. So let's hold up the pieces of paper. Let's have a look. Yesterday, okay. You're old school. Yesterday. So 2 days ago. No, so today, obviously, yeah. Anybody 1 week, 2 weeks? Just now, obviously. But what we're finding globally is that people are not writing like they used to do. Research by The Guardian back in the UK has found that a third of people they surveyed have not written anything down on paper, even a shopping list, for 6 months. So we could say that unfortunately ink is dying. And part of that is our obsession and love affair with technology. So let me ask you this now. When was the last time you were using your PC, writing an email?
This morning.
This morning. Anybody who didn't do it this morning? Okay, apart from academia, anybody else who didn't do it this morning? So a couple of people. You're going to be using email today? You're going to be on Twitter, Facebook? Yeah? So this is really the point. Now, ink is unfortunately going away. And I'm very much somebody, I'm a wordsmith, I love to write, but also I'm guilty of this as well. But for me, my belief is we really should cherish and preserve writing. It's a beautiful art form and also helps us in many different ways. And I'll list 4 different ways in terms of how it does help us. So the first is in terms of helping us get our emotions out. writing is very cathartic. It helps us put down our emotions and get our feelings out of our bodies, out of our minds. They've done research in the US finding that people who actually write who have cancer actually visit the doctor less often because the way it makes them feel. It gets all that negativity out of them, even if it's not meant to be shared. So that's the first thing which we can actually look at in terms of emotions in writing. So it's a great way in terms of relieving our emotional stress. And this has also been proved in the workplace as well. And this is really the second point in terms of reflection. They found that as an employee, if you write at the end of the day for 15-20 minutes, you actually feel much better about yourself. You actually feel much more productive the next day. Because again, it helps draw out the energy from you. The stress, the tension, helps you have some relief. So it gives us the time to reflect on the day, on our thoughts, what we've done, in a way which, to be honest with you, writing an email, or writing a blog post on a screen, we can't do that. It's not the same. Looking at a screen, having that neon light looking back at you, whereas you're staring at a piece of paper, you've got a pen, you've got a pencil, there's no emails coming in, there's no notifications popping up. It's a very different experience in terms of writing, in terms of getting something and doing it old school. So that's the second thing. So again, if you feel as if you've had a bad day, put something down on paper. You will feel much, much better in that evening or the next day. It really helps in terms of reflection, almost like a yoga just without the effort. That's the way I like to put it. In terms of change as well, this is the big one in terms of technology. So who feels as if you're constantly rushed? Who feels as if you have absolutely no time? I think pretty much everybody, especially in Dubai. So we're all busy, we're all again on the internet, we're all doing work, we're all trying to find solutions to problems. There is a concept which you might have heard of, which originated in the 1980s, called the slow movement. It's a beautiful idea, and it's very simple. The concept is we essentially take time out to actually think about what is important. We give time to issues and actually enjoy and relish those occasions. We don't rush things. We're not multitasking. We're focusing on one item, time over time over time. And this is what, again, writing allows us to do when you look at it. There's no immediateness in terms of writing. There's no need to respond immediately to an email or to a text or to a tweet or to a message. And I think for many of us, again, it's a wonderful release in terms of how we live today. There's no sense of pressure on us to respond. There's no sort of emotional need to respond. How many of you get an email and the first thing you think you have to do is respond? Or again, a social media message, the same. It's you have to send it back, or else you're not behaving the right way in terms of etiquette. So the third point really is, it's a way to detach from modern life. Putting pen to paper, writing something down. You're not attached to the internet, so there's no YouTube, there's no distractions. It's just you, the paper in front of you, the pencil and the pen. You have all the time in the world to put whatever you want down. And this is what I always do in terms of whenever I have to write something which is emotional. Again, this is essentially the fourth point. It's actually the emotional side. When I'm relaying a message, I want that message to be as personal as possible, especially to loved ones. So let me get you involved. Write down whatever you think, your emotion, when you receive a card, personal card. Is it joy? Is it happiness? Just write it down on the piece of paper. How do you feel? Do you feel interested? Do you feel engaged? Do you feel curious? How do you feel, Mita?
Warm.
Warm?
Personal connection.
Is it the same when you get an email?
Depends on who it is
Yeah.
and what the message is.
But when you look at what you've received, again, it's personal. It's even the writing, the long form, which most schools now in America actually don't teach long form anymore, which is a great shame. Each person has their own sense of writing, their own style of writing. And again, we can tell so many things from how we write, which we can't do obviously when we're on a PC or on a laptop. You know, you've got your Arial font, you've got your other fonts, fine. But your writing style is your writing style in terms of the layout, in terms of how you put down the words, in terms of how you think out the words and put it on a piece of paper. It gives you time to mull over your expressions and your emotions. And for me, those 4 different points really are what sum up what is so special about ink, about writing, or about anything to do with putting our emotions and our thoughts down on a piece of paper, which will last. So let me ask you now if you can do something for me. So close your eyes. I promise I won't do anything. The camera's on me. So you're at home. I'm guessing somewhere at home you're going to have pictures on the wall. And some of those pictures will have drawings from family, from children. And now imagine those pictures are essentially gone. How does it feel to you? So again, just write it down. How does it feel missing out on that beauty of creativity? So who's going to share with me their thoughts? How does it make you feel? Empty? Who else is going to share with me some thoughts? I think the point again is, when I look at my nephews and nieces, it's amazing the millennial generation. They are the first generation to have grown up with the internet. Every single one of them I know will have an iPad. Every single one of them. And again, even we're seeing this in markets like the US. Children actually aren't taught anymore to paint. They actually use Microsoft Paint instead. So the point is, when we're thinking about creativity, when we think about memories and recollections, we cannot take that iPad, we cannot put it on the wall. Okay, we can print it out, but it's different when you have something which is physical, which is tangible, you know, which actually means something to you, which you can put up and you can host. You're not printing it out. It is there, it comes just from the mind. It is not from set characters or set fonts or set styles. You know, ink and our creativity, that is all we need. You look at the works of Gauguin, Van Gogh, and others. We don't buy something which was created on paint for $10 million, unless maybe you're Qatar. This is not how we do things. So really my cry to you this morning is, possibly ink is dying out, ink is disappearing, as James so nicely put. Let's try and keep ink alive. Let's keep writing. Let's keep encouraging creativity. And let's keep passing this creativity, this idea down to the next generation. Let's keep them engaged in terms of what we used to do when we were children, and not let this thought die out for the next generation. So, in essence, these are my thoughts for this morning.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I don't want to let you go yet because I've got a question.
Okay.
And we've got a couple of minutes if anyone has a comment, a question, something you'd like to add. By day, you work at P&G, Procter & Gamble.
Yes.
How do you make what you're saying in a theoretical, philosophical level, how do you bring it to the office?
Can we turn the tape off now? I think the beauty about what I do is P&G is my day job. I can be creative in some ways, other ways I can't express my full creativity.
You work in corporate communication, you're
Look, we've got to be creative in terms of how we spin things. But I think that the point is the beauty of writing and the beauty of expressing yourself is you don't need a context to do that. You know, you can go home, go and grab a coffee, go wherever you want to. I live just by a beautiful beach, and it's just amazing just to go down, have the view, and get inspired. So, creativity doesn't need a setting. Writing doesn't need a setting. So this is the beauty, I think, of what we can do, especially in somewhere like here, where I think we all have time. It's just making the time, especially for ourselves. And that's what is important, should be important to all of us.
Does anyone else have something they'd like to add? Question, comment, observation? Sure.
Just a thought is, I can't remember the book. I don't remember the book from which this image comes, but it was powerful at the time and it resonates still, which was somebody sorting the post in the morning and rejecting everything typed and saving everything handwritten. Because those were the interesting communications. When was the last time you hand wrote a letter or an envelope?
Actually, I do it fairly often for my wife. She'll probably see this and she'll say I don't do it enough. But I love to put down emotions. I just think it's much more touching. Look, I will send a text message, I'll send a message via WhatsApp, but there's nothing as meaningful as actually writing something down. Actually, it was for her birthday, which luckily was last week. So I did write her a couple of things. So I do have an excuse for that one. But even when I'm angry, when I'm upset, when I'm very happy, I think it just helps in terms of writing something, because again, it does give you that release. It does let you look over what you've put down, and it gives you time to pause and reflect. And I think this is a challenge with modern technology. It's so easy just to open up an email and write something down when you are emotionally charged, and just to send it, which obviously you can't do with writing. It's very different. You've got to really think what you're putting down. There's no spell check. It's just you and the paper, and that's it. It's just blank piece of paper.
I'll come back at you with a different comment, which was in Facebook, and I have had messages composed and typed from a niece who wouldn't ever have written to me. And it's as personal and as direct and as immediate. So it's not to say that ink is the only way to communicate. There are other forms.
Definitely not. We have ancient Twitter, we have the cuneiform tablet, we've had things like papyrus, and technology is just another way of communicating. But I think again, it's for all of us to understand what communication channel works best. Okay, this is a bit of corporate speak. But in essence, if you know who you're talking to and writing to, you'll know best. If it's somebody who's maybe not a child, who's maybe been born in the 60s and 70s, you'll know they'll appreciate something else. With this generation, they are technology. Everything they do is technology. But I think even for them, and I don't think there's anything like seeing my niece actually draw something. And when she was actually using Microsoft Paint as well, and my wife came in and she gave her a piece of paper. She bought a load of pens from one of the shops. And my niece has been there, she's just there for hours, just drawing and drawing and drawing. There's no tidiness in terms of the eyes, there's no mouse, there's no clicking, there's no keyboard. It's just her and her canvas. And I think that's what's so beautiful about going back and thinking about how can we teach this new generation about the joys of what we used to do when we were younger.
Thank you. We got time for one more, and then we'll pick them up as we're going.
slightly different to what you said. Of course, writing is very expressive, it's emotional, it's very organic experience. But from PR writing, corporate communication standpoint, what would you say would be a best practice to put all these emotions that we see on paper inside emails or inside digital notes? Because for me, per se, I do a lot of corporate communications to people, giving them ideas, giving them different news, trying to convince them of doing certain things, traveling stuff. How do I convince them emotionally how paper convinces me in emails?
If you're talking about client relations, if they don't get it, maybe you need to change clients. That's a simple way of putting it. I think we can discuss it one-to-one, because I think it really depends on who the person you're dealing with is and what level of understanding they have. But we can discuss it one-on-one.
Thank you.
Okay?
Alex, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure as always.
Thank you very much. I'm going to